So he's going to be on the next record. We're going to throw that out there, Billboard.
Manifesting that here.
Yep.
It starts right here. Okay.
Paul McCartney, listening? Got some songs for you. Hello, we're Empire of the Sun, and you're watching
Billboard News.
Very excited to have you here in the studio. Was it always inevitable that there would be a new Empire of the Sun album?
It was a little bit touch and go there, I must admit.
No, it was always inevitable. As to when?
Yeah, I guess that's
The question.
Okay.
The empire will go on. It's not like those other empires before that have all, folded. We will keep going.
Sure. Why was this the right moment?
We've been working together for 20 years, over 20 years, so I think we had to get to that point where we said, enough is enough. I've had it with you, Nick. I'm going my own way. You know, we had to turn all the computers off. We had to shut everything down. And even though the pandemic was, horrible for the band, I think it was a bit of a blessing because we got to step away. You know, for 20 years we built this castle, and it was time for us to abandon the dream and let it all get covered in reeds, to then come back again and realize what we loved about it so much in the first place, really.
What did abandoning the dream look like? Was it a formal conversation, or is it something that just kind of slowly dissolved?
It's saying to the record company, it's over. Yeah.
Really?
I think it did sort of fade away for a moment, like the whole world faded away in that time. And probably up until that time, we'd always in one way or another been chipping away at new material. So it was always top of mind, or part of your consciousness. So to sort of do away with it was obviously very freeing. And I think maybe we foretold this on Two Vines, and we talked about the idea of the plants overtaking the cities, and then it sort of did happen to a certain extent. With the whole COVID time. But, I think what brings us back is like what Edgar Cayce said, who was the first clairvoyant in the States, right? That sound is the medicine of the future. And I think we're seeing that now. And I think that's what's always binded us together, is to make things that would live in your hearts.
Was it a formal conversation of the coming back together, or sort of what were the sparks of the, let's say, reemergence and maybe cutting these vines down of the castle and putting this thing back together?
I think it's little confirmations, right, over time, like phone calls from people. And it was interesting, the pandemic, the amount of people that relied on the music. There's a famous fashion designer friend who is a good friend of ours now, who had cancer, and through his whole chemotherapy, all he listened to was Empire. And then, he beat it. So he reached out and said, "You're part of the healing. I'm forever in your debt." Things like that, when you start to get confirmations from different stories that how important the music is. And I think we'd work with other writers and people, and then it just, again, you start to realize, what you love about, what's so special about the Empire. And our chemistry, and then you come back and it's fresh again.
When you came back, did it feel, as you're saying, fresh? Were there elements of it that felt new, reinvigorated, and maybe exciting to you in that way?
Yeah, really exciting, because we've got a lot of respect for each other, and we wanted to show we've got new tricks, we've got something new to bring to the table, right?
Right. And on that note, new friends. Luke traveled to Sweden and worked with some of the great songwriters from Sweden.
Okay.
I went to Paris and worked with some people. It was sort of a culmination of things, almost like the reflection of Empire through their eyes and their ears. It had been long enough, it had been established enough that we could invite outsiders in to participate in this very special and sort of sacred practice of writing this music.
Was that new for you, of bringing people in?
Yeah, it's the first time.
Okay.
It's always been a pretty close shop for Empire.
Sure.
So.
There's been a couple of moments, obviously, like Lindsey Buckingham came in on the album prior to this, and he has a cut on this one as well. But yeah, other than that, for the most part, it has been quite a closed shop.
How long did it take to put this whole thing together?
We started this album while we were shooting one of the videos for the last record, and we were in Tokyo shooting. It's such a vibrant, different place. It just felt right that we would go into the studio for a few days while we were there, and yeah, that's where the journey began. And I'm sure we both went in there thinking that we would have an album by Christmas. But these albums are not, although we're very much part of the creation of it, I think that there is a sort of timeline that is, possibly divine.
Sure.
That maybe we're not in control of so much.
Well, that reminds me, of course, of the album title, Ask the God. Break that down for me.
We wanted to be inclusive. We're very inclusive in Empire of the Sun. We love all of you and we respect all of you. And we thought, ask that God, because everyone has their own personal Jesus or Allah or Buddha or whatever it may be for that person. And I think music can be that for you too. And it's certainly been that for us. And that is often the intention when we're creating music, is to create something that can be a beacon of hope, that can be a signal of light and levity,
These songs are obviously classically Empire and very, very catchy and beautifully produced. And they're also very deep lyrically.
The bigger the brighter, when I cry, everything's lighter.
What were the primary themes that you were exploring through this collection of songs?
I think we're often talking about quite intimate things, just having a sad moment or, feeling lost and wanting to run away from your problems or needing to find someone that you can hold or hug. Music can be that warm hug for you too, I think we've always connected on that the warmth of music is sort of so integral to music.
I wanted to talk about the visual element because I understand that the videos were shot, is it correct, entirely in Thailand?
Yeah.
Okay, take me through that, how you got there, why you decided to do it there.
We spent about a year and a half meeting with, it was probably a year, but a year and a half sounds better. Meeting with directors, and all this stuff was just, it all just felt so weird, it didn't really match what we wanted, and the label's going, just do a visualizer. And I was like, I'm not doing a damn visualizer. So we kept just meeting and meeting people until we got introduced to a Canadian director called Michael Maxis, and we had this call, and instantly he was talking about Zemeckis and Spielberg and all these great filmmakers, and straight away we were like, this is the guy. We sent him the record and just said, go for a treatment of the video, and he came back with 5 treatments for 5 songs and just blew us away and said, let's make a movie. Just fell into this crazy adventure that we've always talked about, like the first album.
It was a dream. I mean, it was a fever dream. Some days there's over 100 people on set.
Wow.
And it was about 100 degrees most days.
Okay.
So much so that everyone carries these sort of smelling salt things with them. And the crew, I was always watching them, they're almost passing out, but they're sniffing this stuff. It's like a herbal thing. Apparently it's just what you do in Thailand so you don't pass out from the heat, which is just, it's quite oppressive.
Did you get herbal packs of your own to stay conscious?
I love them.
Can you kind of tell me the visual identity of the album and how it deepens the Empire of the Sun mythology?
Well, I think we've always been about story, and this film saw the story expand to a new dimension. We brought in Luke's son into the films, who proved to be actually quite a natural actor. She wasn't sure how that was going to go, but I think that we've always been about something a little larger than the other bands. I mean, that was part of the reason we started in the first place. We looked at the landscape, and for the most part we saw shoegazing, and we wanted to see Bowie, we wanted to see this much larger, flamboyant. It felt truer to music, to do something bigger.
I was thinking that on the drive here, would there be an Empire of the Sun without David Bowie?
Yeah, we'd probably, well, there'd be another David Bowie then. There'd be a David Showy, wouldn't there? Yeah, no, we draw from, people always say, where do you get your inspiration? And it's just kind of from everything, So you don't know what touches you. That's why Jeff Koons, the artist, like he talks about how it feels to your heart. Some people stand in front of Picasso and they'll have no emotion, or someone else will go, oh my God, it's a Picasso. The things we draw from are kind of our things, which makes our band special.
What other primary things, or what other things have you drawn from primarily?
I mean, on this record we definitely started in Japan, and I think there was an explosion for us of Japanese culture. Luke is always, he's like a bowerbird, he's always finding things from all over the planet, and different ideas and different threads of things from books and films and music. I don't think we ever limited ourselves in that regard.
What you're saying about peers, or maybe lack of peers, is interesting. You said in the beginning you didn't necessarily see anybody in the landscape that you felt connected to, or is that am I
mean,
interpreting
there's
that
lots of
accurately?
music that we loved, but I just felt that there was something missing, and we stepped up.
What do you think you added to the landscape?
Empire of the Sun.
And with that,
And then with that,
Yes.
you know, I think we've made 1 billion friends, and it's been an unbelievable journey of joy and elation. In many ways, we are sort of servants to the audience, and I think that's what we're meant to be.
I understand that stuff, from the earlier days has really found new audiences, and that, the numbers seem to be really impressive and just reaching a lot of people that maybe weren't there for the first time around or when this stuff originally came out. What does it mean to you to be resonating with younger people and people that didn't catch it the first time?
Feels pretty good to be relevant, because it's better than not being relevant.
It's true, and it's not something you can control either.
Yeah.
It's definitely a privilege to win a new audience over.
Yeah.
But the music speaks for itself. Like, we can't control that. I think that's the beauty of it, that kids went out of their way to sample this thing and make this new version that blew up in Germany, and then it sort of, created this whole other experience. And then plus the Mac Miller one has just going bananas.
Right.
And it was just one of those magical things that came through.
It must be fascinating to watch something that you've created take on a life of its own.
Yeah, I feel that we both always felt that of music. That when you write something, it's like writing a letter or a message in a bottle or something. I mean,
Sure.
they just go out there, don't they? They're not, once you project something,
Yeah.
singing, you're projecting.
What does success for this album look like for you?
I guess just moving people, right? You can't tell how people are going to feel, I guess that's what's so fascinating. It's just, they're like little angels that you're dressing up in, little emperor clothes, and then you just send them out. But that's what's so beautiful about music, the songs, pack their bags, and then you let them go, and you just don't know what's going to happen. Years ago we ended up doing a show in Lithuania, and it was 15,000 people singing every word, and it was like, wow. It made it all the way to Lithuania.
It's amazing.
Yeah, our duty is, to just honour the song and make it the best it can be, and it's up to you guys to love it.
Sounds like everyone's, fulfilling their task on that
Yeah.
end. But obviously there's more opportunity to do so when, these songs are performed live. I'm curious about what these songs look like in terms of live production and what the show will be, because your shows have always been kind of fantastic.
I'll tell you about it in about 6 months, maybe. We'll do another.
Is it a work in progress?
Yeah, well now, we take quite a while building the show, building the set and the whole story and narrative of the show, and when I'm going to go down in the crowd and say, you sing this bit, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll come back on air and we'll do another thing, and you can tell me what you think about it.
Okay, that sounds perfect.
But we're doing the Hollywood Bowl down the road.
I
so
know, it's a huge show.
We'll get the Billboard team a box there, and we'll have a great night.
That sounds good to me.
But it's exciting, we've sort of had the pandemic, and we did some shows after that, but it's going to be good to get back for a proper tour. And
How much rehearsal, especially knowing that you haven't been on the road for a while, how much rehearsal and practice goes into performing, doing a show like the Hollywood Bowl?
quite a bit. And as well as the Bowl show, we're actually playing with Paul McCartney in Mexico.
Wow.
So a lot of
So
rehearsing.
he listened to your album.
More rehearsing.
Yes, more than normal.
Yeah. Actually, no more interviews in 6 months because we're going to be rehearsing.
Well, we're honored to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So AEIOU, the first song that's a collaboration between Empire of the Sun and PNAU, which is of
Right.
course your long-standing act. Both of these projects have been around for a long time. Why is this the right time to join forces?
PNAU was always a fledgling act until it had this behemoth record called Cold Heart.
I'm not the man I think I am at home. No.
And then it felt like, oh, well now Empire and PNAU feel like they could collaborate, and it would make sense. It wouldn't just be like Big Brother going, come on little brother, we'll give you a go. So that's kind of how it felt.
Okay.
And the song just felt like something that would be right for that.
PNAU's just such a hot electronic act, and they do something with the kick and the bass, which I don't know what it is you guys do that does. Because Empire, we have our thing, but you guys have this thing that just Yeah, but I loved that track straight away because after I heard that song A, B, C, D, E, F, U, you know, then I
Yes.
thought a vowel song, and we've always talked about a vowel song, so bringing that in was just stroke of genius.
I wanted to talk about music on the radio too, and just how how literal these lyrics are.
And the record company took that seriously. They were saying, it can't be second single because we're going to offend the radio. Is that a world we want to live in, Katie? Really?
So not literal.
Yeah, no, it's a record for the underground, and I think it's pretty sane compared to some of the things out there on the radio, right?
Yeah. I mean, it really was. We were trying to talk about all the bands that don't get played on the radio, but you know, whilst being played on the radio.
Sure. In terms of the length of this project, 20 years is a long time. How are you both different, and what are you both bringing to the table now that you weren't when the project started?
I'm listening more, for sure. Trying to listen more.
Okay.
I think that's my main role.
Okay.
And I think at the start I didn't really realise that I was working with the voice of a generation. And over the course of the time, that's obviously proven to be so.
Yeah.
But I think like art movements, if you think of surrealism or Dada, they didn't name those until after the movement had finished. And I think this band has been around long enough that I've come to be more humble and realise what a privilege it is and how special it is.
You feel like you're part of a movement?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real privilege to be a part of this. It's very special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the voice of a generation?
Yeah. Thanks, man. That's
Hand
really
me the
sweet. Yeah, where's my Pepsi right there? Yeah, no, what Nick said, I think we've realised, you know, how much love we have for this project and respect for each other, and how special and unique this chemistry is. Like, I love this band so much. You know, we come in the room, we talk about our families and for a second, but then we know what the mission is and what the job's at hand, and I love that, and I love how hungry it still is. Like this guy, you know, best producer in the world who works endlessly. The other day, you're in New York, uptown, recording a Brazilian guitarist. The next day, he's in with a 6-piece choir. 2 days later, he's in Los Angeles, down in Burbank, in some guy's house with old 70s keyboards.
In the basement of someone's house, he has all this crazy stuff. You got to go to some of those places, you know, to find those sounds. There's some interesting characters along the way, but I think we're still seeking, we're still searching, and I don't see that resting anytime soon.
Do you know exactly what you're searching for?
I'm going to say enlightenment, really. I mean, I think that's what we should all be searching for.
Yeah.
I do think that music could bring us there. I do think that Edgar Casey was right. I think sound is the medicine of the future.
Considering that the search for enlightenment is probably for most a lifelong project, is it fair to say that this project will continue in perpetuity?
Yeah, well, now the kids are involved, so it doesn't really end, does it? Like, it's going to just keep going. That's such a beautiful thing. There doesn't seem to be any need for it to end.
Sure.
Yeah.
There are enough things in this life that end that shouldn't have, and enough things that keep going that should end. So let's keep some of the good ones going.
Sure. This album landing at this particular moment in time, do you feel like does society need this medicine in this particular moment, and is that why you're releasing it now?
I think so. We always talk about timing, God's timing, and there was so many years where we wanted it to happen, and we just kept trying to make it happen, but when the spirit's not there, it sounds like invisible music. And you play it on the speaker and people just sit there and they go, when are you going to start playing the song? You know, and you're like, it's playing now. It just sounds like nothing. It has to have, you know, it has to be God-given, have spirit to it. The record company hates us because it's like another year rolls by and then another year. And we're just sort of like, but that's when things are, you know, eternal and endless, and that's when you great body of work, when it happens at the right time and you wait for that, and you have the, you know, fortune favours the brave, when you can say to the massive record company, hold the line, just wait for us. And they did, they're very patient, and it does, everything feels like the right time right now.
There's a tremendous amount of joy and brightness and depth and intelligence and fun and intimacy in this album. That's what I hear, and it feels really good. It's really a beautiful album.
Awesome, thank you.
That's very kind.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about it?
Just want to say thank you, Billboard. see you in 6 months for a follow-up, right?
Yeah, thank you so much.
At the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
Thank you both, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Yes, pleasure.